Over a 10-day period, a person's waking life is characterized by strict stability. We follow the same schedules, physical paths, and highly predictable professional routines. But the moment that same person falls asleep, that stability collapses into thematic and emotional chaos. Consider an 8-dream sequence recorded from a single individual across a controlled 10-day window. The subject's waking conditions, career, family, and environment remained constant. This animation maps the dominant themes of those 8 consecutive nights. The brain moves from desperate spatial navigation to temporal synchronization to family attachment to complex engineering planning and finally to abstract philosophical reasoning. This presents a distinct paradox. A single, stable waking identity generates fragmented, diverse realities night after night. To resolve this, we have to stop analyzing dreams as isolated nightly hallucinations. They are continuous outputs of an actively evolving cognitive system. Classical psychoanalysis framed these nighttime narratives as symbolic expressions of repressed emotional conflicts. These early diagnostic models searched for a single, repeating psychological flaw or universal archetype. But a search for singular meaning fails to explain the rapid, mechanical thematic rotation observed in our 10-day dataset. Modern neuroscience shifted the focus toward biology, measuring sleep as a mechanism for memory consolidation and emotional regulation. Yet even empirical models struggle to articulate the exact structural rules that allow the brain to juggle so many disparate, chaotic memory fragments while maintaining narrative coherence inside the dream itself. This is where we apply the Brain Kinematics Model. This framework treats the dreaming brain as a topological landscape where competing neural networks exert physical strain and gravitational pull against one another.
To understand, we are going to reverse engineer Dream 1 from our dataset. Under this model, a dream is an active structural mechanism called a mentation pathway. It is an architecture actively being built to solve a problem. Dream 1 begins with a specific, high-stakes objective. The dreamer is lost in a city at dusk, attempting a complex navigation back home while time runs out. In systems theory, home operates as the mathematical attractor. It represents the brain's most stable regulatory state, or homeostatic balance. Everything in the system is trying to reach that point. We map this neurologically. The dreamer has absolute certainty that home lies north. This establishes a central vector pulling the narrative forward, called the master-strain flow. Despite knowing the global direction, the dreamer encounters environmental obstacles and continuously drifts eastward. The dreamer actively recognizes this error during the sequence. The brain clearly distinguishes between its desired vector and the staling trajectory of its actual environment. A dream maintains its internal logic because the master-strain flow dictates the overarching physics of the sequence, pulling the narrative toward a resolution, even as local processing pathways misfire. In the opening moments of the dream, the subject expertly navigates the streets on a lightweight foldable bicycle. Translated into the Brain Kinematics Model, that bicycle represents a highly efficient, low-energy internal cognitive strategy. The brain has found a smooth processing rhythm. Suddenly, the bicycle path ends in a dead drop. The dreamer is forced to abandon their most efficient tool. What follows is a rapid cascade of cognitive failures. The dreamer seeks out buses and then attempts to hail expensive taxis. Upon approach, every vehicle simply vanishes into thin air. This represents the brain testing and immediately discarding increasingly desperate external dependencies as its baseline cognitive efficiency drops. The further the system drifts from its homeostatic attractor, the more its internal logic degrades. It requires higher energy solutions to solve the problem, and the dreaming brain struggles to render them. Desperate for a new route, the dreamer begins asking strangers for directions. They receive only jokes, misdirection, or blank stares. The subject attempts to formulate the question by recalling nearby parks and landmarks to triangulate an address. This strategy, recalling objects around a destination rather than the destination itself, is a hallmark of hippocampal navigation. Memory retrieval in this state proceeds through associative chains rather than direct access. The useless, joking strangers represent the failure of the brain's social guidance networks when those associative memory blocks are inaccessible. When a direct memory pathway is impaired,
the brain automatically delegates the task to complex associative networks, and those networks are highly prone to failure. While lost, the dreamer passes visually stunning aquatic parks and brilliantly engineered cement waterways. These parks activate a secondary cognitive system, the emotional drive for curiosity and exploration. New gravitational nodes appear on the topological map, fighting against the dominant north vector. The dreamer desperately wants to stop and look, but the executive system suppresses this curiosity. The threat of oncoming darkness forces them to abandon the parks and stay on the primary vector. The tension breaks when a child suddenly steals the dreamer's bag. In a matter of seconds, the dreamer pushes the child into a hole, experiences acute fear of arrest, feels intense empathy, and leaves food for the thief. This violent tangent is a real-time observation of multiple regulatory subsystems: self-protection, aggression, legal consequence, and empathy, all fighting for dominance simultaneously. Despite extreme emotional temptation and acute threat, the home attractor continuously overrides all secondary continuums. That strict hierarchy prevents the mentation pathway from collapsing into random noise. We can move past the idea that this sequence was a simple replay of a specific autobiographical memory of being lost. This stream operates as a predictive simulation designed to test how well a long-term objective is maintained under severe systemic adversity. Think of it like a fluid dynamics simulation used in engineering. You push a system to its breaking point specifically to measure its structural integrity. The brain generates specific stressors: failing spatial memory, extreme time pressure, moral conflict, and immediate physical threat, to challenge its own regulatory limits. Under this framework, these obstacles act as targeted stressors, specifically generated to evaluate the structural integrity of a goal-oriented system. If we zoom out from the mechanics of that single night, we can apply this logic back to our full 10-day sequence. In this calendar grid mapping all 10 days, we see that each subsequent night placed a unique attractor at the center of the simulation. One night prioritizes academic synchronization, the next tests family attachment. Recent waking experiences, known as daily residue, underlying architecture that prevents the simulation from crashing. The diverse themes recorded over those 10 days suggest that the dreaming mind is functioning as an adaptively flexible system. This perspective reveals that the nightly chaos of dreaming is an expression of cognitive resilience. It allows the brain to integrate new daily chaos while maintaining a stable underlying identity.